In 1971, halfway between the Moon and Earth, Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell experienced a sudden, involuntary cognitive disruption. Looking out the window at the cosmos, he was hit by an ecstasy of unity, a visceral realization that the atoms in his body were forged in the same ancient stars burning in the heavens. This intense biological connection was immediately followed by a wave of sharp political rage. Looking back at the tiny Earth below, Mitchell became furious at the petty international conflicts dividing its surface. He developed an aggressive compulsion to grab terrestrial politicians by the scruff of the neck, drag them 250,000 miles into the vacuum, and force them to look at the planet. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a predictable, neurologically measurable biological reflex. And today, it's formally studied under a name: the overview effect.
Scientists are now trying to reverse engineer this brain state to see if it can be scaled to address our most stubborn geopolitical and environmental divisions. The early days of spaceflight selected for a very specific type of mind: hyper-analytical test pilots operating inside a strict, militaristic Cold War culture. It was a lie-to-fly environment where admitting to fear or emotional sensitivity meant the immediate end of a career. Yet the moment these hardened pilots reached orbit, their rigid training fractured. When Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin crossed the Kármán line in 1961, he didn't report data. He reported poetry, describing a turquoise and violet halo around the Earth, then an urgent plea for humanity to preserve the beauty of the biosphere. In 1969, a jammed camera gave Apollo 9's Rusty Schweickart 5 unplanned minutes floating outside his spacecraft. Looking down at the whirring planet, he was struck by the absurdity of territorial warfare, people killing each other over lines that from here simply didn't exist. Apollo 11's Michael Collins described the Earth as a terrifyingly fragile, delicate little orb. For Collins, the divisions of capitalism and communism, wealth and poverty, instantly lost their meaning against the blackness of space. Despite years of military conditioning designed to produce nationalistic conquerors, the raw visual exposure to the cosmos had effectively erased their national identities. Psychologists now analyze this through the modern lens of awe, a complex emotion built from 2 ingredients. The first is vastness, encountering something so overwhelmingly large it dwarfs your entire frame of reference. The second is harder to describe, so here's the plain version. Your brain runs on mental shortcuts. Psychologists call them schemas, built from a lifetime of standing on solid, gravity-bound ground. When an astronaut sees the whole Earth floating in a vacuum, none of those shortcuts apply. The brain can't file it anywhere. It's forced to rebuild its model of reality from scratch, what we're calling schema liberation. Here's where it gets interesting neurologically. This kind of cognitive stretching maps onto the default mode network, the brain region behind self-referential thought, your inner monologue, your running self-criticism. Neuroimaging shows that profound awe significantly quiets this network. The sheer visual scale of space turns down the volume on the part of your brain that maintains your sense of individual status. This neurological signature, a quieted default mode network, a shrinking sense of self, closely resembles the brain states reported by advanced meditators in states like Savikalpa Samadhi. Mitchell himself later described experiencing something like this. The overview effect, then, functions almost like a measurable biological intervention, one that shrinks the ego just enough to make room for global empathy. Because only around 700 humans have ever left the atmosphere, researchers are turning to immersive technology to democratize the experience. Scientists at Tilburg University used the SpaceBuzz VR simulation to test whether the brain's perceptual centers could be tricked into an authentic high-arousal awe response without ever leaving the ground. Their data showed a real physical response. Many participants experienced goosebumps alongside a spike in heart rate the moment the digital Earth came into view. EEG recordings showed measurable drops in high-frequency beta and gamma brainwaves at that exact moment, evidence that the brain's habitual predictive models were genuinely disrupted, not just emotionally moved. If a headset can trigger that response, it suggests planetary consciousness can be engineered and scaled, no rocket required. To get even closer to the real thing, some ventures are using the stratosphere itself as a stand-in for orbit. The Dorothy Project sends cameras rated to survive negative 60-degree temperatures up to 40 kilometers high, capturing ultra-high-resolution footage of Earth's curvature and bringing the astronauts' view back down to sea level. Meanwhile, commercial space tourism ventures are lifting civilians into the thin upper atmosphere using massive, high-altitude balloons, some hydrogen-filled, to reach the edge of space. As high-fidelity VR and commercial balloon flights democratize access to the edge of space, the overview effect is transitioning from an elite privilege to a scalable tool. In an era of intense division, engineering this collapse of the human ego offers a potential pathway toward more collaborative, planetary-scale decision-making. To continue exploring the strange mechanisms of the world, subscribe to channel and watch the next video.